Okay, guys, welcome. Today we're going to talk about problem solving, which is essentially just a fancy way of saying we're going to be looking at some word problems. Okay, so some typical steps that you would use in solving a word problem um, is that you're going to, of course, read the problem until you understand what you need to do, right? Um, Another good strategy is to talk about what are the things that you already know and what are the things that you need to find out. All right. Now, there's something that's not in here that I would like to probably talk about, and it's to draw a picture if possible. All right. Another key thing to look out for is what's the thing that you're looking for? What's the unknown quantity, right? So it might be worded in the question in terms of something like how much or how many, right? And you're going to let X represent that unknown amount. All right. Um, and of course, if there's any other given quantities in the problem, if you need to relate them to X, that can usually work to your advantage, right? Don't call them another variable, just call them how they relate to Y. So if it's 10 more than X, you would say 10 plus X or something like that. All right. Then, of course, you want to write an equation or equations if possible, and then you want to solve that equation. All right. So let's look at um, some examples. Now, one more thing I'll mention before we look at an example is that there is a table on page 61 of our textbook, and that can help you translate some of the words to algebraic expressions. All right. But let's look at this first example. So we're told that the larger of two numbers is one more than the smaller number. And then we also know that 5 times the larger number exceeds 4 times the smaller number by 12. We want to find the numbers. So in part A, we need to find two numbers, right? So we need two numbers, right? And we're just going to call X the smaller number, let's say. All right. Well, what's the larger number in terms of X? Well, we're told that the larger of two numbers is one more than the smaller. So the larger number is X plus 1. All right. What else do we know? Well, we also know that 5 times the larger number. So how do I say that? That's 5 times X plus 1 in this case exceeds 4 times the smaller number. So 4 times the smaller number is just 4X. And if it's greater than that by 12, I would need to add 12 to get there. And we want to find the numbers. All right, so that's the equation we need to solve. So now if we distribute, we get a 5X plus 5 is equal to 4X plus 12. And now if we solve this, if we subtract 4X and 5 from both sides, we're going to get right away that X is equal to 7. Right, now of course, what was X? X is the smaller number, and the larger number is X plus 1, so the other number is 8. All right, two numbers are 8. Are 7 and 8, I should say. All right, so that's a simple example. All right, part B is similar. We want to write the number 30 as a sum of two numbers. All right, so we're going to let 30 is the sum of two numbers. And here we also know that twice the larger number, so if I say X is the larger number, just to make it different in this case, if I take 2 times the larger number, I'm going to get that the smaller number is, let's see, do I need another variable here? Let me start over here. So let's say that X is our larger number. Okay, and the smaller number if I take twice the larger number, I'm going to get 3 less than 7 times the smaller number. All right, so it's minus 3. Okay, but what else do I know? I also know that both of these numbers, if I add them together, gives me 30, right? So we know that if I do 30, I'm going to have that 2 times x, let's see, plus 3 less than 7 times the smaller. So I should have that this is, wait a second here. Okay, so in this example, we actually need 2 variables here. So I'm going to let x be the larger number and y be the smaller number. All right, so I was getting a little confused because in this section we should only be using 1 variable, but I don't think it's possible to do this one without 2 variables. So we know that if we add these 2 things together, we should get 30, right? The sum of 30 is two numbers, right? Now, the next part of this gives us that twice the larger is 3 less than 7 times the smaller. So that tells me that 2x is equal to 7y minus 3. All right, so here's what we can do. We can now say, by looking at this first one, that y is equal to 30 minus x, right? So now we can take this quantity we have for y and plug it in here. Now, if we do that, we're going to get that 2x is equal to 7 times y, but we just said that y was 30 minus x. All right, so now we have an equation that we can solve. So if we solve this, we're going to get that 2x is equal to 7 times 30, which is 210, minus 7x, and then minus 3. So now if we solve this, I can add 7 to both sides. Add 7x, sorry. And I can combine my 210 and minus 3, and we get that 9x is equal to a 207. Right? So I believe if we do this, if we do a 9 times 20, that would give me a 180, and I need 3 more. So I'm going to get that x is equal to 23. Right? But of course, we know that x plus y is equal to 30. So that would give me fairly quickly that y is equal to 7. So your 2 numbers there are 23 and 7. All right, so that one's a little bit trickier. Okay, now in the second example, we're told that the length of a rectangle is 2 feet more than twice its width. All right, so in this case, we can draw a picture. All right, and if let's call this the length and we'll call this the width. Okay, so if I call the width x, we know that the length is 2 feet more than twice the width. So that's 2 plus 2x. All right, now we also know that the perimeter is 22 feet. And of course, what's the perimeter of a rectangle? It's 2 of the widths plus 2 of the lengths added together. So in this case, we're going to get a 2 times the width, which is x, plus 2 times the length, which is 2 plus 2x. And we know that that has to equal 22. So if we add these, we get a 2x plus 4 plus 4x is equal to 22. So we'll get a 6x plus 4 is 22. So once we subtract 4, we'll get that 6x is equal to 18, which once we divide by 6 gives us that x equals 3. Now, of course, this is just the width. How do we get the length? Well, the length is 2 plus 2 times the width. So that's 2 plus 2 times 3. So that gives us 2 plus 6. So we get that the length is 8. All right. So just because we found x here doesn't necessarily mean we're done. We have to sort of take it one step further here. Okay. Now in part B, we're dealing with a triangle. Okay, they tell us that one side of a triangle is 3 centimeters longer than the shortest side. So it looks like we're going to have a long side, we're going to have a medium side, and a short side. Now, if one side of a triangle, let's see, we have one side of a triangle is 3 centimeters longer than the shortest side, right? So it looks like it's going to make sense to make X the shortest side here. All right, and then we're told that one side of the triangle is 3 centimeters longer, so maybe that's the middle side, say X plus 3. And then we're also told that the third side is 1 centimeter more than twice the shortest side. So that's 2x plus 1. And of course, here we know that the perimeter is 20. So we get that 20 is equal to all these sides added together. So if we combine like terms on the right side, we're going to get x, 2x, and 4x. So we get a 4x plus 4 once we combine the 3 and the 1. So we can subtract the 4 over, and we get that 16 is equal to 4x. So we get that x is equal to 4. And again, this is just the shortest side, right? The shortest side we now know is 4. So the middle side is x plus 3, or 4 plus 3, which is 7. And then the longer side is 2 times x, so 2 times 4, which is 8, plus 1, so we get 9. All right, so those are the dimensions of the triangle. All right, so that's one where you can draw a picture to sort of help us. Okay. Now, in this example, we're told that a department store advertises that all appliances are on sale at a 20% discount, right? Now, if the sale price of a microwave oven is $160, we want to know what is the original price, okay? So we want to know the original price, so that's what we're going to call X, all right? And we discussed before in a previous video that if I take 20% discount, that really means that I'm taking 80% of the original price. Right? So if I take 80% or 0.80 times the original price, which is X, we know that we're going to get 160. Right? So of course, how can we solve this? Well, we want to divide both sides by 0.8. Right? Now, of course, this would be something that you could use, use a calculator for, but if you wanted to do something like 160 divided by 0.8, you can multiply each of these numbers by 10 so that you get rid of that decimal. And then we just want to solve this problem. So you can find pretty quickly that this is 200. So the original price there is 200. Okay, so similarly in part B, we're told that we pay $63 for a car radio after receiving a 30% discount. We want to know the price before the discount. So we'll call that X again. And we know that if we take 30% off, we're really just taking 70% of the original price. So 0.70 times X should give me a 63. All right, so again, in this case, we can divide by a 0.7. Right, and this one I'm not sure if I can do off the top of my head. So if we do that, we should get, let's see, so if we take 63 and divide it by 0.7, we should get an, oh right, yeah, you get a 90. Yeah, I actually could have done that in my head, but that's okay. Okay, so we get that the original price for that would be 90. Okay. Now the next example is a consecutive integer problem. Okay. Now, first of all, let's talk about what we mean by consecutive, right? If you look at the word consecutive, that just means that like one after the other, right? So if you have like 3, 4, 5, those are consecutive numbers. Right? So in these consecutive integer problems, you're always going to call the first number x. All right. Then what's the next number? Well, it's whatever x is plus 1. And in this case, we want 3 consecutive integers. So the third number is the previous one plus 1 more. So instead of x plus 1, it's now x plus 2. So we know that if we add all these together, I should end up with 54. Okay, so adding all my like terms, I'm going to get a 3x plus 3 is equal to 54. So let's subtract 3. And I get that 3x is equal to 51. And that should give me that x is equal to 7. Not 7, 17. Right, if I do 3 times 10, that gives me 30. And if I do 3 times 7, that gives me 21. Add them, I get 51. So we get that x is equal to 17. So we know the first number is 17. The second number has to be 18. And then the third number has to be 19. So those are my 3 consecutive integers that if I add them, I get 54. Okay. Next example, we're told that John has taken 2 quizzes in algebra and has received scores of 90 and 96. Now we want to know what score must he achieve on his third quiz to achieve an average of 92. All right. So of course, how do averages work? Well, if I call this third quiz x, then I know that 90 plus 96 plus x divided by 3 would give me the average, right? And of course, we want it to be a 92. Okay, so how can we solve this? Well, we have fractions, so let's multiply both sides by 3 to get rid of it. So the left side just cancels the fractions. We get 90 plus 96 plus x. And now on the right side, we got 92 times 3. So 92 times 3 should be a 276. Right? So now, if I add these two together, I get a 186 plus x is equal to 276. So we can subtract our 186. And I'm going to get right away that x is equal to, let's see, is that a 90? So we get that x has to be a 90. So if John wants to get a 92 average, he needs to get at least a 90 on this next quiz. Okay, so this is something that you've actually maybe done on your own in order to figure out what kind of grade that you need on an upcoming quiz or something. Okay, last example. So we're told that for part A, we have a right triangle whose area is 12 square feet, has a base that measures 3 feet. What is the altitude? So for this one, you just have to remember what's the area for a triangle. Well, it's 1/2 base times height. So here we're told that the area is 12. And we're also told the base is 3. All right, and we want to figure out, well, what's the height or what's the altitude? All right, so again, I see a fraction, so let's multiply both sides by 2 first. So the 2 and the 1/2 will cancel. And now I have 24 is equal to 3h. So now divide both sides by 3, and I get that 8 is equal to h. So the altitude is 8. All right, so that one's not bad. In part B, told that a carpenter is instructed to build a rectangular room with a perimeter of 18 meters. Okay, and we're also told that one side of the room measures 5 meters. So that means that this side is also 5. Now this is what we don't know, so we're going to call that x. And again, just like before, I know that 2 times x plus 2 times 5 has to give me the perimeter, which in this case is 18. So I get 2x plus 10 is equal to 18. So once I subtract, I get 2x is equal to 8. dividing both sides by 2 would give me the x is equal to 4. All right, so in this case, the room is 4 meters by 5 meters. Okay, so that concludes this video on doing some problem solving with word problems. Hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next time.